We're gonna start here on this gearbox. We've got the main tube pulled out here. You got the crank that's on this side and you got a crank that's on the other side with your stuffer brake. I'm putting a new tube in here. I'm putting new bushings in here. This grease zerk kind of had some wear in it, so it wasn't getting enough grease in here. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but we did find a little bit of wear in these bushings. And so we went ahead, put a new zerk, new bushings. I've ordered a new main tube here, and I ordered new cranks for both sides. We kind of had a failure right on the last day of baling on the other side, and I'll show you guys that here in a minute. But so while we got this part, the splines started getting just a little bit of play. This baler's got about 44,000 bales on it, and they started getting a little bit of play, nothing major. But I thought, you know, I'm going this far into it, I'm just gonna replace all this. I didn't have to, but I'm gonna replace it all. So what we've got here on the side is, I got a new crank, because this one here had some significant wear in it. And the splines, not only the splines, but like this clutch dog arm had significant wear on this edge. And I mean, just things that happen over time. I mean, nothing that was affecting the way it was baling, but, and then this right here, you can tell it started kind of getting a little bit of, it's kind of hammering on that a little bit there. So I said, piss on it. We'll put a new crank on it. And so I got one for the other side as well. And we're gonna end up putting that all in. Also on this side, this is the update that we put in last spring before we started baling. And this is my oldest baler. This is my 2017 baler. I think I videoed this on my 18 baler, but this is my oldest baler, and this one has my most experienced operator on it. And so anytime that there's hay where I don't feel comfortable sending some of my rookie operators in, this baler gets the worst of it, and this baler has baled so fucking good that I don't even know what to say about this baler. I'm not mad about the failure that happened on the other side of this baler, and it wasn't the baler's fault. I'll explain it here in a minute, but I put no money into these balers. They run. We do excellent preventative maintenance on these balers. I mean, shit is gonna happen on any piece of equipment you own. Shit is gonna happen. But for this failure that's on the other side of this baler that happened, and it was not the baler's fault, it's just unbelievable. So there was a comment on my YouTube video. A guy commented, and he has one Krone baler and claiming that he had a 340. I don't know what 340 he had, but he just said it didn't work for him, and he likes a Krone and blah, 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 blah. And that he puts $6,500 a year into this Krone baler, and it had 80,000 bales on it. And, well, good for you. But even with this failure, and I'm putting new cranks, new tubes, and on both sides, a new pivot arm on the other side, because that was what was failed, was the pivot arm, and gone through and done all my connecting rod bushings, replaced all my broken tines, all my plunger bearings, all my stationary knives and plunger knives, all my knotter work, and I'm still under $6,500 for the year. So, you know, tough luck for you not knowing what you were doing with the New Holland baler, but this is the worst I've ever had with a 340 plus, and I'm still under $6,500. So kind of not really that worried about it. What we've done here is we've done this update last year. We ran it all year. Worked perfectly. What was happening was it was wearing into this arm here, and it was letting this arm cock sideways, and it was breaking these ball joints off. Fix that problem. Don't have that issue anymore. That worked out beautifully. It didn't even hardly wear into this because it gave it so much more wear area. You went from a little area that wide to an area that big to wear on, and there's no wear in it. I mean, you can look. There's absolutely no wear in this piece, so I won't even have to replace this deal here. And that was something that was wearing out every year. So, and it's not a whole lot of money, but it probably saved me $1,000 this year to replace all this shit. And then this here is my next update. So what was happening, this is a rough draft, but you can see I welded a nut inside a washer because I'm gonna go cut my own washer to put in here for the right thickness. But what was happening is this groove right here is for a snap ring. Well, the arm that's in here, it wears that snap ring out, and pretty soon it just kind of walks off this shaft a little bit. And they can come all the way off. And when they come all the way off, they get to a point to where when the crank comes around, the crank hits the arm, bends this rod. And I feared, it hasn't happened to me, but I feared that it could end up breaking out this cast iron piece where this little shaft goes into this gearbox. And that would not be a good deal because this gearbox is about $7,500. So you don't want to be replacing that gearbox. over something stupid like that. So this, what we done was we went ahead and threaded this and put a washer on there to where I can shim this anywhere I want. It's definitely not gonna wear through that thick ass washer to get this off there. We'll put a little Permatex Loctite on this to hold it in. We'll be golden. And I think that will be an excellent fix for the issue that was happening here. And by the end of next year, I will let you know how this fix goes. Just like I did this one here. This one worked perfect. And this is, I believe, is gonna work perfect. So we're gonna update that. We've already gone through the rest of the baler. I'm waiting on one set of wheel bearings. And this goes back to, if you don't want to cost yourself a shitload of money, do the correct preventative maintenance. Right here, we go through, we repack our wheel bearings every year. We found one wheel bearing was not satisfactory, but it had not failed, and I've got it on the other side. So let's go take a look. We come over here to my wheel bearing station, and this is the set of wheel bearings. As you'll see, this one looks pretty good. There's no pitting, no nothing on these wheel bearings. A little bit of brown shit there, but it comes right off. This one here was the one that we were worried about. There's still no pitting, but it's got that set of lines through it, okay? And then you'll look at the back race. Nothing really bad there. I don't see anything bad there. There's a little scratch, but it's not real bad. This other side, it's got that heat ring in there, I'm assuming. But still, there's nothing, you can't feel anything with a fingernail. But this was not satisfactory to me. So I'm gonna replace it, and we won't have a wheel bearing failure and possibly wipe out an axle on a baler. So it goes back to do your preventative maintenance. Okay, now here is the failure of this baler. And mind you, this happened on we didn't even know this happened because the baler finished baling, we parked it, and as we were blowing it off, we looked and said, oh fuck, that broke off today. And what had happened is the roller that was on here, this whole end broke off. The roller, the bolt had backed out and allowed the roller to come out just a little bit. And the roller was riding where it should have been riding right here. It started riding up here, and it ended up breaking the end of that arm off. I cannot blame the baler for that. I mean, shit comes loose on anything. So I'll start using red Loctite instead of blue Loctite on those bearings. But it just, shit happens. That was probably my fault when I replaced the rollers. Maybe I didn't get it tight enough. I don't know. But I can't blame that on the baler. But regardless, this arm, that arm, the tube, the bearing that goes in here, the crank for the other side, and everything else on this baler, I'm still under 6,500 bucks. So I just find that it's funny when people try to tell me that their Krone balers are so much better than these New Hollands when I know they cost a fucking fortune to go through. So this baler here, this is a nice update. Look at the size of these springs. This is an update from New Holland. These break all the time on these New Holland balers. So on the 2020 models, they started putting this heavier spring on these crop holding fingers. So let's take a look at what the old springs look like compared to the new one. Now, if you want to know the part number of these new springs, there it is. And it is a great, this will go on all the older 340 balers, and it's a great update. Everyone will think, well, man, that spring's huge. It's got to have way more tension. It does not have any more tension. I mean, this thing is easier to put on than the old ones. It's longer, so you don't have to pull. I mean, look at the length difference. So you don't have to stretch this near as far to get it on, but it's way heavier, and these arm little deals won't break off anymore. But look at the difference there. These ones break all the time. These ones do not. So that was a nice update from New Holland. I thought that was something that would be cool to throw in this video, because realistically, my crop holding fingers are about my only issue with those springs. Overall in the summer, that's about the only real issue we have, is occasionally it'll break those springs off. We went through, like I said, put new stationary knives in, and plunger knives, and new guides. But these ones, for 44,000 bales, aren't really in too bad a shape. then I went ahead and put new metering arms and whatnot on for my bale length because they start getting wear and whatnot in there. Went through my knotters, changed my rollers on my tucker arm and twine fingers, my cam rollers there. Like I said, we put new guards, rock guides in. These are the new guide from New Holland. They call them a rock guide, and that's what they went, you know, this used to just be an option, but they went completely to these styles for your guides up there on your knives. Stationary, these go in the stationary hay dogs that hold your hay flake into place. They go right in the front of that. So that's kind of where we're at with this baler. Like I said, it's a 2017 model. This one actually doesn't have the twine boxes that lift up like my other two. This baler's been through some tough ass conditions, and it's been a fantastic baler. So very, very little issues. Like I said, that's the biggest issue I've had with the 340 plus right there. And you know, all these Krone guys are saying, oh, it's $6,500 a year. Well, I'm normally between $1,500 and $2,500 a year, and even with all that shit, I'm still under $6,500 a year. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about these balers. I probably won't be running my Bryden this next year. I went ahead and ordered, this is some 500 I had left over from 2 years ago that I was trying to run out. I usually run 440, but I went ahead and made the switch for this next year to PXL. They make a 4,900 foot 440 roll instead of a 4,000 foot 440 roll, and it's the same size roll. And we went ahead, I won't run yellow this next year. We're gonna run white because, you know, white twine matters. And we're gonna try that PXL and see how I've ran it before and I liked it. I don't know if it's as good as Bryden, but we're gonna run it this next year just for the 4,900 foot rolls and see how we like it. So that's about where we're at here. We're basically just waiting for my parts to show up to put this baler back together later on today and get her out of the shop. But yeah, these 340 pluses are something else. So they don't cost hardly any money to go through every winter, and they run really well if you know what you're doing. If you're going to take the time, you know, if you're going to spend $150,000 on a baler, take the time and do some preventative maintenance, for God's sake. I mean, don't just run it until it fucking destroys itself and then blame New Holland for all your problems. I mean, you got to have a little bit of common sense. So we've had excellent luck with these balers. I'm not saying Krone's a bad baler by any stretch, but I love my New Holland balers. All these guys that are out there saying, oh, New Holland's trash. Well, they are not trash. They're far from it. And I would put my New Holland baler up against any of you guys, and this oldest one I would put up against any of you guys, and you'd be pissed off. So anyways, that's enough for today.